You're listening to The Morning Show on the Big 1520 across Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. My guests in studio, three young men, Owen Raleigh, Noah Succo, and did I say that right? Succo. Sorry, guys. Succo. Noah Succo and Ben Succo with us today. They're part of the Super Scream Brothers Robotics team. Owen, I've been connecting with you, getting you guys lined up. Tell us about the Super Scream Bros Robotics team.
Yeah, so we're a robotics team based out of Macon County. We've got together about 4 years ago and joined the 4-H Scream organization. So yeah, we're a 4-H sponsored organization that competes in robotics challenges annually.
Mm-hmm. Robotics is a really booming component to not just 4-H, but it's getting popular in school. Obviously the STEAM and STEM initiatives are growing in popularity. Owen, tell me how you got involved.
So personally, I had been involved in the first programs before into a smaller first competition at my school. I got involved there. And from there, I started growing with the program. I started making connections. And eventually I heard from one of my friends that he had just joined a bit like one of the bigger robotics teams that do a little bit more complicated things. And so I just decided that I'd talk about joining. And so I talked to the team and they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you on. And it was their first year. And then I've just been involved ever since. And yeah, it's been really great.
Awesome. Well, Noah, correct? Yeah. Noah, pass the mic over from Owen there. Tell us how you got involved.
Well, I've been involved since my brother has been involved. He's been doing robotics for a while.
Yeah.
I, being the younger brother, saw him doing robotics and
wanted to follow along.
Yeah, saw it was cool and decided that I wanted to do it as well.
Ben, how did you get involved? Pull that mic close to you and tell us how you got involved.
So when I was in like first grade or so, probably, I was in Boy Scouts, and a robotics team actually came and demonstrated at our Cub Scouts meeting, and I said, hey, that looks really cool. And so my dad signed me up and got me joined to that team. We eventually split off from that team though and formed our own team because of various reasons. We had some different things we wanted to do. And we got two other members to join us, so we had enough for a team. And it just went on from there. We kept going, kept building, kept growing.
Yeah. So Owen and Ben, from your perspectives, I'm kind of curious about this. You guys joined really young. From what I understand about robotics, there's a lot of programming and building and things of that nature. Was that even on your radar at that young of an age, like the stuff that went into this? Or was it just like, that looks cool, I want to be a part of it, so I'm going to do it? Like, speak to that, I guess, Owen.
Yeah, so for me personally, I really had a pretty vague understanding. I joined the program when I was in 5th grade, and I had heard about it first when I was in 4th grade. And it was, I have vaguely understood robotics, like, okay, yeah, there's mechanical, like there's robots that go do things. I really didn't know much about it. So this was my very first introduction into the program when I joined in 5th grade. And from there, it really introduced me to like, what is programming? What are motors? How do these work?
Right.
And, I started learning how to program them, starting with just very simple moving blocks on a iPad, and then now we do much more complex things.
Do you remember when you first got started, what got you hooked? Like, what was the thing that made you want to stick with it?
I definitely remember. I saw the robot I couldn't join yet. I was too young, but I saw their robot and I was like, and I saw it moving around on the field and it was using arms to pick up blocks and dropping them down. And I was like, whoa, that's incredible. And so I asked if I could join, and they're like, "Oh, you're too young." And so next year, I got right into it.
How about you, Ben? Like, what was the thing that made you want to stick with it? And actually, let me ask you this: going back, what was appealing about, like, when you got into the program? What was appealing about it when you first started?
When I first started, I just saw all these robots being able to complete a bunch of different things. So when I started, it wasn't the robot that you see here in front of you.
Sure.
The big metal robot. We were actually competing in a lower competition where you build out of Legos. And that was very cool just to see something that I'd played with for so long, Legos being used to do actual things.
Yeah. At such a young age for you specifically, you mentioned you joined in first grade. What was the what were the early days of that, kind of getting introduced to this and learning about it? What was that like? Because, for a first grader, a lot of this is really, big, complex stuff. How about that? I don't even know if you can remember that far. I mean, I don't remember yesterday, so I totally get that.
I've been doing this for over half my life, so it's hard to remember.
Yeah,
sometimes. Let's see. I'm blanking.
That's all right. Well, so I want to ask you, what got you hooked when you got into the program? Yeah.
Okay. First year that I was on the team, we built a giant Lego catapult that launched marshmallows into nets that were designated as like different areas. It would sense the color of the marshmallow and fling it into 2 different nets. And that was just amazing.
Sure.
It was flinging marshmallows everywhere. It was just so cool. It's got to be one of my favorite things we built to this day.
Absolutely. We'll move along. Sorry, Owen, I don't mean to divert the conversation. I want to ask Noah, though, real fast. Noah, what was for you early on? Like, what got you hooked on the program? What made you want to stick with it?
Well, I mean, they were meeting in my basement, so I got to see the robots constantly.
Yeah, firsthand.
And I saw this big marshmallow flinging catapult, and obviously that was really cool. But also the robots feeding the catapult that would pick up the marshmallows and put it on a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of moving parts, and it was just really cool.
Admittedly, pretty cool, sure.
And I knew that I would be able to do it.
Gotcha. Interesting. It's interesting, guys, that, how early you all started and, kind of what kept you going. Again, Owen Raleigh, Ben Suko, and Noah Suko with us, part of the Super Scream Brothers robotics team. Owen, how does robotics work? Tell us just a little bit about the program, some of the ins and outs folks need to know. How about those things?
Yeah, so in our competition, we're building a robot to complete a variety of tasks, and these are annual tasks. They'll give us a new challenge each year, a new field. The field's about 12 feet by 12 feet, and it's littered with all sorts of objectives to accomplish. And so you need to build a robot that can do that well. And so the main principles, I guess, of building a robot, you have to have good hardware and then good programming. And so, we build our robots with metal pieces, and then we also design and then 3D print our own pieces or laser cut them on wood or acrylic. And then when we program them, we actually program an app, like an Android app, and then run them on the robot.
Yeah. This is such an elementary question. Forgive me for how dumb it probably is. Where do you start in building a robot when you first get your assignments? Like, where does that start? Noah, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So I am one of the builders on our team.
Okay.
Well, we have builders, programmers, and people on outreach.
Okay.
So I'm one of the builders. We typically start, we find out what the challenge is, and we decide what kind of chassis we would want.
Okay.
What would our driving base need to be? For instance, this year, there's some pipes that you need to drive over. So we made sure that our robot, a lot of robots don't have a very large gap beneath them, so they wouldn't be able to drive over those pipes. So we made sure our robot has quite a big gap underneath, as well as we decided what kind of drive mechanism we want. This year we went with mechanism wheels, which a mechanism wheel it has these rollers on it so that it can slide across the table, kind of like an omni wheel, which you might have heard of.
Sure. Keep talking. I'm going to adjust the mic or the camera so folks can see this. Okay.
So the mechanism wheels, it has these rollers on it that are angled, versus an omni wheel, which the rollers aren't angled. They're just straight. So the omni wheels, they can slide across, but also be powered so that they can move forward. But the mechanism wheels, since the rollers are angled, if you move all 4 of the wheels in the right direction, it can actually make the robot slide back and forth.
Oh, that's cool.
So
nice.
It can strafe.
Yeah.
So this robot can actually move in any direction, despite having 4 wheels like a car.
Yeah, you can turn them whichever angle you need them to. Yeah,
Well,
sure.
No, the wheels don't turn. It's just.
Oh, they don't.
It's because of the angled rollers we've got. It's got wheels on top of the wheels.
Okay.
So if we turn the front right wheel and the front the back right wheel opposing each other, it will actually slide to the side.
I see.
It's very cool.
Ben, what's your role in this whole process?
I used to be a programmer, but I eventually moved on to outreach because I saw it was a area we needed more focus in. So I've been working with creating a website. I've been live streaming our competitions to YouTube, actually, and a bunch of other outreach related things.
Sure.
That's been my main goal this year, and it's been a lot of fun.
I'll bet. Owen, what's your role in this process?
So I do programming as my main job, but I also work a bit on the outreach team. I scheduled this, and so, but overall, I'd say I'm big on the programming.
Yeah,
and I like to work in that.
programming is where I'm kind of curious at. Where do you start when your objectives come out? How do you put together a programmed robot to do what you want it to do?
Yeah, so it's a bit complex.
I'll bet it is.
Yeah, so we have a design. We have both an engineering design process and a programming design process that kind of helps us follow along a good path. We start with very basic. What do we need to do? You know, we define exactly what we want to accomplish with this code. Do we want to drive forward and drop off a block? Do we want to use our camera to sense how many, like a barcode on the field? And what do we need to do? And then we start very slowly. Okay, we do what's called pseudocode. So pseudocode is just easily written out and understandable code in English. So we just say, if robot sees barcode, robot moves forward. Just as simple as that. And once we get a good pseudocode of exactly what we want, then we start putting that into code, and we start testing and testing and testing. And we work with the design team to get exactly what we want on the robot so that we can test it on the robot.
How did you get into coding?
So I did a little bit of coding whenever I was in like 5th and 6th grade on the robotics team there. And actually my first year on the team here, I was a builder, but I was really interested in the programming. It was something that always really fascinated me, just because building is something you can see, but programming it happens all behind the surface. It's not anything visual or tangible,
Right?
Which might turn some people away, but for me, it just really intrigued me until what was going on under the hood of it. And so I decided to learn more my second year. And since then, I've just kept learning more and more and more.
Before we go to break, I want to ask you this. You know, man, I tell you what, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I think back to when I was in high school, this wasn't even feasible, you know? And so, and we were just like, I remember when I was a senior, one of my best buddies had gotten an iPhone, and it was so rare for someone to have an iPhone. You guys probably think everybody's got iPhones. How's that rare? You know, like for you, that's unfathomable. This is unfathomable for me. How easy was it to pick up? You know, I mean, because you've probably grown up with a tablet or a video game system or a phone. Like, you've known that since you were a kid. How quickly were you able to pick this up with that kind of background, I guess? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, completely. I definitely say, like, as a person who's grown up around technology my whole life, it's just something that I've just generally known. And I'd even say, like, have a knack for. I don't know. It's just a part of my development is picking up things like this pretty quickly, I guess. So it wasn't honestly too difficult I already knew my way around a computer and an iPad pretty well. So it was about learning how to do different things with that. And yeah, it wasn't too difficult, honestly.
Ben, did you want to add something there?
I did want to add something. He did also join a pre-existing robotics team, which helps a lot. If you want to get into robotics, I do recommend joining a pre-existing robotics team. When I started out, it was difficult, because I had only been on a different robotics team for 1 year, and then we split off and decided to do our own thing. And we didn't have the experience that other team did, but as the years went by, we were able to increase our library of knowledge, honestly, just knowing how the system works and all that.
Sure. Ben, how do folks follow along with the Super Scream Brothers robotics team? Where do they go? How do they find you?
Well, we have a website now called 4hscream.org that you can go to. We also have a YouTube channel of the same name, 4H Scream. We're on Facebook and Instagram, but that's it at the moment.
Awesome. Well, follow along there. Again, that is Owen Raleigh, Ben Suko, Noah Suko with the Super Scream Brothers robotics team. We've got more with them on the way on the WHOW Morning Show.
Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton CEO Paul Scourin reminding you our walk-in clinic inside our family medicine building will treat your flu symptoms without an appointment. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
ServPro of Piatt DeWitt counties can make your emergency or disaster like it never even happened. Find out all the services ServPro of Piatt DeWitt counties provides by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
January is National Blood Donor Month, and Dunker Electric Supply and Lighting Center in Decatur reminds listeners, if your health permits, please give blood now and as often as you can. Remember, the average shelf life of blood is only 42 days. In order to meet the increasing demand for blood in our community, please be a hero and give the gift of life. Roll up your sleeve and donate blood today. This message from Dunker Electric Supply and Lighting Center in Decatur. Visit online at dunkerelectric.com.
WHOW, the Big 1520 and 92.3 and 106.5 FM is coming to Cerro Gordo. It's the WHOW Hometown Tour, broadcasting live from the Cerro Gordo City Hall, Monday, January 24th from 9 till 10 in the morning. Listen as we interview local officials and talk about the community pride that Cerro Gordo and Bement have when we bring the WHOW Hometown Tour to Cerro Gordo, Monday, January 24th from 9 till 10. This WHOW Hometown Tour stop is brought to you by Dobson Automotive at 148 North Macon in Bement and the law offices of Kosick and Stout at 130 North Locust in Arcola.
This is the morning show on 92.3 FM in DeWitt County, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. My guests in studio today are with the Super Scream Brothers robotics team. That is Owen Raleigh, Ben Suko, Noah Suko with us today. Owen, tell us a little bit about competitions. What is the competition season like, the schedule like? How about that real fast?
Yeah, so in our there's a in our challenge that we do. So there's a competition, and so we start up in the September where they release the challenge. They release a video of how a match might look, and then give you a guide document on exactly what are the rules, because they change every single year. And they'll send you a kit to build your field, and then they send you along your way. And so you have a few months at that point before your first meet. And so you have 3 basically practice meets, and you'll get together with other teams from your region. Our region is Bloomington, Decatur, Champaign, Springfield, that whole area. We'll get together from teams from all around that area and compete with them. And we compete with them in the December, November, January. And then eventually we work our way to a qualifier in February. And that determines if we're going to move on to state and then worlds after that.
Gotcha. Ben, when you get to the early competitions, are you able to, let's say you go through the first one and you realize, maybe some flaws in the design, flaws in the programming, whatever the case may be, are you able to modify and improve on what you're doing?
Absolutely. They want to see you modify your robots after the first competition. The whole point of these meets is for you to evolve, for you to get some real world testing in so that you can see what the failures are, where your bottlenecks are, so that you can keep improving and keep getting better.
Yeah. Is there a time, like how much time do you have to adjust from meet to meet?
I'd say somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Very good. So when you get to then the main competitions, how does it work in terms of advancing to the state meets? How about that?
So there's a variety of awards that will advance you if you get those awards. And each award has a first place, a second place, and a third place. But at these qualifier, there's going to be 30 plus people. It's a very big event. And so only a few of those awards, the top awards, will get you advanced. And the main awards are called the Inspire Awards. And those are the ones that guarantee you a spot at state and then even worlds after that. And so, but those awards are only available to the teams that are the most well-rounded. So not only do they have an amazing robot design and they documented it really well and they can show it to the judges and present it amazing, they have to have amazing programming and amazing outreach as well as that. They should have inspired their community and really made a difference as a team.
So this is somewhat a part of that process then, a little bit.
Absolutely.
Ben, how much success have you had in the past?
How much success? Well, we've done very well as far as the robot game. My dad is our coach, and he's an engineer at Caterpillar, and he's been able to help us a lot with making an effective robot. He's taught me so many things that I would not have learned otherwise.
Sure.
One award that we often get is the design award, but we've also started doing a lot better at outreach in these past few years. We've engaged with our community. We've went and talked to Cub Scout troops and whatnot.
Sure, you've been in front of people. How do folks follow along with your team?
Well, we have a website, 4hscream.org. We have a YouTube channel and Facebook and Instagram of the same names.
Sure. Gents, thanks so much for doing this with us today. It was really good to have you in studio again. Owen Raleigh, Ben Suko, Noah Suko, Super Scream Brothers Robotics team in studio with us. Network News on the way.
With SRN News, I'm Jeremy